So yesterday I flew from Charlotte to Reagan, and I am the girl on the plane. I think I'm the best passenger because if you don't want to talk to me, that is completely fine. But if you want to talk to me, I am all yours. So before I sat down on the plane, I saw the lady beside me, and I thought, there's no way she wants to talk to me. I sat down, and she said, why are you going to D.C.? And I said, I'm giving this speech. She asked me for what. I told her what the Fellows Program was, on and on. We got really deep really quick, and she said, I don't really know what I'm going to do next in my life. I'm in a time of transition, yada, yada, yada. I said, well, you were in luck. That is what I'm talking about. And no one warned me when you fly into Reagan. I don't know if it's just from Charlotte, but you go over houses, and then you go over this body of water. And right before we went over the body of water, the plane was shaking, and I was looking out the window. I was about to pull out my phone and start, telling my mom I loved her. It's been a great life. See you in heaven. But we ended up landing, and I said to the lady beside me, I said, whew, we made it. That's the scariest I've ever been on the plane. She said, the only thing I could think of is those fellows were never going to get to hear your speech. So I'm glad I'm here, and she was worried about me. I told her to Google the fellows, so I hope she watches this, but I'm really excited to be here. My entire life, I have known the next step. When I was a little girl, I was obsessed with knowing what was coming next. I drove my mom crazy because I always wanted to know what was next in the day. When I was in 5th grade, I was so excited to graduate because I knew in 6th grade I would be going across town to a new school. I was the senior in high school who knew exactly which college she wanted to go to, so much so that I only applied to one college, and thank goodness I got into Clemson University. At the end of college graduation, I knew I was going to be a fellow. I had applied as soon as I could, and I got accepted to the Memphis Fellows Program in February. My sister had been a fellow, so I knew that's what I wanted to do. So while all of my friends were scrambling around trying to figure out what they were going to do, I had a plan, and I was excited. I had a really good plan. My fellows experience was nothing short of incredible. I lived with a family that had a middle school daughter, and we actually got along really well. My host mom was one of a kind. She understood my personality. We laughed together. We had a lot of fun. I was an intern at Second Presbyterian Church for my job, and I was blessed with a wonderful boss and mentor who helped me both in my personal and professional life. There were 7 fellows in my class, 2 boys and 5 girls, and I can relate to Kate. I wouldn't have chosen these people, but we genuinely loved each other, and we liked being with one another. So while I was in Memphis, all of these people were my community that I surrounded myself around. I trusted them, and they all had strong relationships with the Lord. So when April of my fellows year came, all of the other fellows knew what they were doing, and I had no clue. I know there's some of you in the room that know exactly what you're doing next year, and that's awesome. And then there's others who have no clue, and that is also great. At the end of April, Camp Greystone called me. It's a camp I had worked at all through college, and they said, we'd love to have you back on head staff. And I was like, awesome. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm very hesitant about this, but let's go for it. I'm worried about next year, but this will give me 3 more months to figure out what I'm going to do next. So when I arrived at camp, something just didn't seem quite right. Usually I get to camp, I'm like, this is the best place in the world. I'm so excited. It didn't feel that way. And on my second day there, it felt like my stomach had dropped out from under me. The best way I can describe this feeling is that it felt like I had been hit with a Mack truck, which I feel like is very dramatic, but at the time, I believe that's what it felt like. So I went to the head counselor, who's also a really good friend of mine, and I said, we were looking over this gorgeous view of the North Carolina mountains, and I said to her, I want to go home today, like right now. And she looked at me and she thought I was joking. She's like, no way. I said, yeah, I really want to go home. And she said, well, let me talk to some people. Let's figure this out so you can go home. But in the meantime, why don't you spend some time alone and kind of reflect on why you're feeling this way and why you want to go home? So quickly, I'm not very good at sitting still, but I sat still for about 3 minutes and realized why I was feeling this way. This was the first time in my life I had no clue what I was going to do next. Did not have a next step. I didn't know what I was going to do after the summer. I didn't know what city I was going to live in, and honestly, I thought I was going to have to live with my parents. So during these kind of dark days, is what I call them, I also had time to reflect on the 9 months before me and why my fellows experience was so wonderful. And one of the many things I learned from being a fellow is the importance of community. As a fellow, I was surrounded by instant community. There were people my own age, the fellows, and people my age at the church that I was friends with, people younger than me that I could mentor, the middle schooler I lived with and her friends, and also people older than me, my mentors at work and around the church. All of these people helped lead me through my fellows year by praying with and for me and pointing me to the Lord instead of myself during my times of need. So when I was having this being hit by a Mack truck feeling at camp, I did what the fellows taught me to do. I turned to the community around me. Fortunately for me, my friend and the head counselor did not give up on me. She remained my friend, and she prayed with me daily and encouraged me. I developed a strong relationship with the owner of camp, who also is a very godly woman, and she pointed me to the Psalms when I was having my not-so-good days. Surprisingly enough, the campers were a great help to me. They were younger than me, but I was able to mentor them and see how they were finding joy in the seemingly little things of camp. There were also girls there my own age who understood where I was coming from and made me realize I was not alone in these feelings of tension. So if you fast forward a few months, obviously I did not leave, which is awesome. It was one of the best summers of my life. And I was able to find a job in Charlotte in medical device sales right after camp. So when I moved to Charlotte, I knew exactly what I needed to do first. I needed to find a church, and I needed to find community. Although it is not easy to find community when you're not a fellow, it's not as automatic, it's very important. I am now part of a community group of people my own age who are in a similar stage of life as me. And one of my greatest friends is my 82-year-old neighbor who, although she thinks I am helping her, she helps me realize the importance of living a life of faithfulness dedicated to the Lord. I have mentors in my own field who encourage me to be a light in an often dark and dog-eat-dog line of business. So before I end, I want to encourage you, I'm more of an extrovert and I enjoy kind of getting to know people. It's still hard for me to find community. It's still a lot of work. Or if you're an introvert and that's not as much your thing, I encourage you to remember your fellows' experience. Surround yourself with believers and non-believers of all ages who can support you and who you can find joy in from loving them well. Thank you.